The bell above the diner door chimed softly as the woman stepped inside, hesitating like someone who wasn't sure she was welcome. The lunchtime crowd was thick, forks clinking, coffee steaming, laughter bouncing off the chrome and glass. At the counter sat a row of bikers in worn leather vests, broad shoulders filling the stools, their motorcycles visible through the window like resting beasts. Conversations dipped when she walked past them, her coat too thin for the season, her eyes fixed on the floor. She chose a booth near the back and folded her hands together as if warming them on an invisible flame. Her name was Maria, and she hadn't planned on eating. She had planned on asking. When the waitress came by, Maria ordered the cheapest soup on the menu and a glass of water. She smiled apologetically, the kind of smile people wear when they are used to explaining themselves. As she waited, she glanced at the bikers, men with gray in their beards, scars on their knuckles, patches stitched with stories no one asked about anymore. They laughed loudly, sharing plates piled high with burgers and fries. Maria looked away quickly, embarrassed by the growl of her own stomach. She ate slowly, savoring each spoonful as if it might be her last for the day. When she finished, there was still food left on other tables, half sandwiches, untouched fries, plates being cleared. She watched them with careful eyes. Finally, as the waitress returned, Maria swallowed hard and spoke so softly it almost vanished into the noise. "Excuse me," she said, fingers twisting together. "Can I take the leftovers? For my daughter?" The words hung in the air. The waitress froze, unsure how to answer. A fork stopped midair. One of the bikers turned his head, then another. The diner, moments ago alive with sound, fell into a sudden heavy silence. Maria's cheeks burned. She hurried on, voice trembling. "She's 6. She didn't eat today. I don't want to waste anything." People shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. The waitress glanced toward the manager, then back at Maria, torn between policy and compassion. Before she could speak, a chair scraped loudly against the floor. The biggest biker stood up. He was tall and broad, his leather vest creaking as he moved, tattoos peeking from under his sleeves. A silver chain rested against his chest, and his eyes, sharp at first glance, softened as they met Maria's. He walked toward her booth, each step echoing in the hush. Maria braced herself, ready for judgment, for anger, for being told she didn't belong. Instead, he pulled out the opposite seat and sat down. "You got a name?" he asked gently. "Maria," she replied, barely audible. He nodded once. "I'm Jack." He looked at the empty bowl in front of her. "You didn't finish because you were full, or because you were saving room for courage." Her breath caught. Tears welled despite her effort to stop them. "Because I was hoping," she whispered. Jack stood again and turned to his table. "Hey," he called to the other bikers. "We done here?" They looked at one another, confusion giving way to understanding. One by one they rose. Jack waved the waitress over. "Cancel the leftovers," he said calmly. "Bring fresh meals, boxes too." The waitress blinked. "All of them?" "All of them," Jack replied. "And add a kid's meal. Actually, make it 2. The diner exhaled as if waking from a spell. Plates were cleared. New orders came out, hot and generous. The biker slid boxes across the table toward Maria, roast chicken, pasta, sandwiches, slices of pie. Maria stared, hands shaking. "I can't," she began. Jack held up a hand. "You can," he said. "Because one day someone helped me when I didn't think I deserved it either." Maria looked up at him then, really looked. The lines on his face weren't just age. They were history, regret, survival. "Thank you," she said, the words too small for what she felt. Jack reached into his pocket and placed a folded bill beside the boxes. "For tomorrow," he said. "Kids get hungry again." The manager came over, eyes wet, and quietly said the meal was on the house. Someone at the counter began to clap. Another joined. Soon the diner filled with applause, not loud, not showy, but steady and sincere. Maria pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. As she stood to leave, Jack helped her with the bags. At the door, she turned back. "My daughter's name is Lily," she said. "She loves stories about brave people." Jack smiled. "Tell her this one's about a bunch of old bikers who finally learned what strength really looks like." Outside, the afternoon sun caught the chrome of the motorcycles. Maria walked away lighter than she had come in. Not because of the food, but because of the kindness that had filled the space where shame once lived. Inside the diner, the bikers returned to their seats, quieter now, reflective. Jack lifted his coffee, staring into its dark surface. "Funny thing," he said to no one in particular. You never know when a simple question can remind you who you're supposed to be. And in that small diner, on an ordinary afternoon, a whispered request turns strangers into family and leftovers into hope.